and this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Please consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to your situation. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast producers or sponsors. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy or completeness of the content. Hi, my name is Bella Carrasco, and helping others feel more comfortable about investing brings a huge smile to my face. I pull together my resources to interview experts in each area of the due diligence process and answer how do you know questions when considering your future financial safety. But that wasn't enough for me. As an ex-collegiate soccer player, I know the parallels that athletes have with everyone else. That is, the fact that we all have several identities and the capability to add more skills to our repertoires, including investment knowledge. For these reasons, I also bring on athletes so that we can learn how they became confident in the investment world and learn the tips that got them there. We go deep into questions about many phases of the investment process with the goal of helping you go from practice to game time confidently. This is the How Do You Know podcast. Today, we are speaking with Natalie, who is an ex-professional basketball player who won 2 national championships during her time at Notre Dame, won gold with Team USA, and was the 8th selection in the WNBA Draft. Now she has transitioned from athlete to business athlete and works for Transamerica and World Financial Group, which we will learn more about at the end. So Natalie, you are incredibly accomplished, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat today. And interestingly enough, you and your brother are both in the finance world now. So did you learn about money growing up, or how did you learn?
Yeah, thanks, Bella. I appreciate that. And one quick caveat I didn't catch earlier was I actually made it to the national championship game twice, and we lost both times. We beat Connecticut, and then we lost to 2 Texas teams, Baylor, Texas A&M. So
oh my gosh,
Texas, you know what? Yeah. But yeah, I guess we got it going on in Texas here. But
still getting your revenge, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, let me exact this revenge somehow for sure. Yes, no doubt. But thank you for that. But yeah, and now I'm working with my brother. You know, we played basketball all growing up, and now I get to work with him. And like when we were growing up, like we worked. Grew up in the middle class. My mom stayed at home. My dad, she left. She was very accomplished herself. Was an architect, had a practice. They decided, to stay at home. My dad worked a 6-figure job as kind of in sales consulting. And my family, money wasn't really discussed. It kind of akin to a lot of people. Money discussions just didn't happen. Always had money. My dad was kind of like, I'll never forget really my dad, like, oh yeah, no worries, like no problem, like we got it. But I would hear those hushed conversations between my mom and my dad, about money. I'm like, do we have it? And so my brother and I, we were blessed with private school education, but never knew anything as foundational or learned anything as foundational as finances, right? And so really what came about was my twin brother, he knew that, I was blessed to go play in the WNBA and had discussions around money, but it wasn't necessarily for learning it and education purposes. Here, do this. Here's a 25% match. Do this. No, right? And it was my first introduction to my brother said, hey, this has really been really beneficial for me. Take a listen. And I just remember being blown away as something as simple as the rule of 72. Compound interest rule, right? How a little bit starting early can go a really long way. It's just things that were never really taught. You can pay off debt and build wealth, at the same time. And it's just like some of these things that when it comes to money, people really are just not taught in school.
Right. No, and it's so interesting time and time again when I have these conversations with people, it's something that's not talked about. Money is just simply something that's very close to the chest. And so the only way that we learn these things is by what I'm finding, either having a mentor or a friend or a brother or a sibling that kind of just introduces that to you. So glad that you had that with your twin. And just in case some people aren't familiar with the rule of 72, do you mind just briefly highlighting that?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. It's Albert Einstein came up with it. rules. So, it must be true. Einstein.
Yeah, absolutely. Verified.
Yeah. And he basically just said it's like the compound interest rule. They call it the eighth wonder of the world. But basically, you just take this magic number of 72 and you divide it by the interest rate you're receiving on your money. That's how long it's going to take for your money to double. So 72 divided by, say, we're not even getting 1% in a bank account, but 72 divided by 1, it's going to take 72 years for our money to double in the bank.
Yeah.
Does anybody even have 72 years?
Yeah, I'm going to say. I think we can all agree that's probably not a good answer.
You nailed it, right? And the other thing I like to mention too is it's a lot for a lot of us, it's working against us. So say if 18% you're being charged on a credit card, 18% and you haven't paid off that debt, maybe you're just paying the minimum or something. Every 4 years, your debt is doubling, right?
Yeah,
and so it works for and against you. Something simple,
right?
Yeah, simple as that. And no idea.
No, and the brightest minds talk about compound interest in a very positive light. So like you said, Albert Einstein, eighth wonder of the world, Charles Munger, which is Warren Buffett's right-hand man, is said like the number one rule is to not interrupt compounding. And I encourage everyone to just Google charts on compound interest because there's very nice comparisons out there that show what happens when you do and don't compound. And it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, right?
How much of an impact it can have.
That's amazing. And
so thank you for bringing that up because hopefully some people are now awakened to that concept and the rule of 72. But knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently to start your investment journey?
That's a really good question. I would have really asked more questions, paid attention, when you don't have conversations around money or just kind of hushed around it, you don't know anything. So it's like, oh, well, I'll get that. I'll figure it out later. But money, it's like oxygen. It runs the world. You do need funds. Obviously, we all know that now, right? Especially as we're getting older. It's like, wow, maybe it would be really helpful if we had some of these discussions. So I would have asked more questions. I really think too, like understanding that you can fit it all in. So for example, you can have fun at the same time, but you can also save money, right? It doesn't, especially when
exactly
can go a long way, right? So what if you put some aside and then go blew the rest like you were already going to do anyway, right? You can pay off debt and build wealth at the same time. You can have a credit card and use it smartly, right? To build credit. And it's really just those lessons you don't learn. A lot of people aren't learning till later on in life, decades after, that would have been really helpful for them.
Right.
I mean, maybe we're like in college, we had per diem as athletes, right? And so much money. And I remember I had like $10,000 walked out of college with I still hold the record. I think maybe they joked.
Oh my gosh.
So frugal. I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's just sitting on there. I'm not doing anything.
Just breaking all these records.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I wish I would have kept that frugality essentially, right? But and so $10,000, I could have put that in something to be able to start compounding at age 22, and I would have asked more questions on the 401k. They advertised when I got to the WNBA, 25% match.
Right. Yeah.
I knew that was good. And they were, well, to be honest, I knew it was good because of their enthusiasm, right? But I was like,
it's a lot.
What is that? It is. Yeah, exactly. I'm not understanding that now. And I was like, man, I still don't understand what that is. I don't understand. This is more money than I'm used to, that I'm getting. I don't want to put anything else, aware.
Yeah.
I want to say that frugality from college really left a little bit in for those first years, honestly. Yeah, those are just some of the things that I would say.
When you were talking about saving, you can have debt, but you can also spend. You can also do all these things. I think it all requires a plan. So it's not fun sometimes, but just taking the time to have that plan, you can see that you can have both. You can save and you can spend, and you can still have this life that you want. Because I know some people are in the mindset of, oh, well, money doesn't buy happiness. But to your point, it does rule the world. Like without money, you can't simply do things. So I think it's not good to be focused and fixated on just money and be greedy in that way. But it is a fact of life that we need to plan for that. So what would you say prevented you from asking questions?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, it was so focused on basketball, and I didn't grow up learning. And I mean that I really struggled. I don't know if you felt this way or other athletes felt this way. I was so focused on basketball and I just did enough to get by in school in high school. I knew enough. I did enough. I studied the night before. So when I got to Notre Dame, I didn't know how to study.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can just study, and I was in pre-med track. I thought I was going to be a
gosh.
doctor, right? And I was like, my gosh, I can't, there's so much information. I'm so behind the last 2 weeks that we've been learning that I haven't, like, I've been just, again, enough to get by and couldn't do that. So it was really, I wasn't learning competently, like when it came to anything. And so to take on other things, it just wasn't like that for me in college. And even after, it was just more money coming in from the WNBA and then going overseas, more money that I was used to. My expenses were low. Everything was pretty much taken care of. So I was just like out there really just living and playing basketball, which is something I never even dreamed of growing up, to being able to play basketball as a sport and get paid for it. And I think that's really what prevented me from even asking questions. But even maybe in the WNBA, like, there was so much information that first draft week that I was like, okay, great, I'll get to it. And I think that was me. Oh, no, I'll get to that. And I just never got to it, right?
I know. Yeah, it's not your priority.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, when you're super young like that, but just
totally
having those conversations, like even nowadays, I'm having conversations with kids that are going into college who already have NIL deals. And it's just so remarkable because how far we've been able to come to kind of see some of the progress that's been made, but also good on those parents for getting them in front of people to have conversations with them. Hey, well, as an athlete, what would I have done differently at 18, 17, right? To be able to putting, $100, $200, $400 aside a month.
Right.
Imagine, right? And you can see the trajectory just by letting compound interest do its thing. The right vehicle, never, interrupting the compounding process. You significantly can be a millionaire based on saving, and saving and putting it in the in growth, essentially, right? But remarkable. It's remarkable.
I know for Christmas one year, I gave my sisters some money to put in one of those robo-advisor apps that there are out there. Of course, they hated me for it that year, but I'm like, you just wait. You will be very thankful one day. The older sister, of course. But I think a lot of athletes are probably in a mindset of like, well, I don't even know what to ask. I encourage them to even say that. Say, hey, I know I need to learn more about money. I know I need to be saving. I have no idea where to start. I have no idea what to even ask. Can you help me? And just like starting a conversation.
Absolutely. And that's the best thing about people love to help. People absolutely love to help. So a kid, like, their best weapon is asking for it, right? Like, and that's, you're right. I didn't know what questions to ask, but that would have been the whole point of getting outside of myself. Hey, you look like you're doing okay in life. Any suggestions, right?
Yeah.
Anything like that, truly, I think that would have been super helpful. But yeah, you're exactly right. Just asking for help, asking for questions. You'd be surprised exactly what people would tell.
Absolutely. And I know I'm very shy when it comes to asking people for favors. I hate bothering people. I know everyone's so busy with their own schedules, but to your point, it's amazing how people are just so willing and excited to be helpful because they want to pay it forward. So just giving people the confidence to just ask.
Exactly. I love that.
And earlier, like you were saying again, the savings rate, do you have a typical rate that you would encourage people to try to aim for?
Yeah, it all depends on like the right vehicle that people are in. Like, I would encourage people to ask questions, and most people just kind of tend to do what their parents did. Maybe what ask their coworkers and ask them. But what I would encourage them to do is, what is everybody else doing? And ask those questions of like, is this the best place to be? And just continue to inquire instead of just settling. I mean, it's only our retirement, right? It's only our legacy that where I think of. And when I think of the stock market, using it appropriately, I always think of it as, you can relate it to like a variable account, like the stock market is, right? And anything, I think of it like a car. If you would never drive off a lot in a car that was unpredictable, unreliable, and unstable, right? That would be crazy. You'd never even buy that car, drive it off the lot. But so many people's full retirement accounts, full investment portfolios, just strictly all in the market, right? And so they really don't have a lot of control over it. So I would just encourage people to ask, like, what if you could consistently get 6 to 12%, never lose your money, And at the same time, like you talked about never interrupting the compounding process. If you're never losing money, you're never interrupting that compounding process. So you just really allow it to do exactly what it's designed to do. That eighth wonder of the world, right? And so asking where can we you have get that kind of access to the accounts, and a lot of it was like indexed accounts, whereas you're growing your money, still getting access to the market, it's tied to the market within those indexes, but at the same time still being able to take part in the upside but never losing your money, which can be really
Yep.
powerful. I would have known that when I was a kid.
Right. I know. And there's different diversification strategies and things that people can get into there, but that's maybe a topic for another time.
Love it. Yeah.
On the theme of asking questions and things like that, who would you say has helped you along the way as it relates to money, or what has helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah. Great question. And I appreciate the people that have helped me in my life. You know, it's been, I mentioned my brother, you know, even my parents, you know, my mom and my dad did do a lot of things right. Um, and what I credit it probably the most to, as far as like increasing and enhancing my education, would be like the company that I work with. The diversity that I see just provides just a world-class financial education for me. You know, mentors who have taken companies public. There's real estate investors, people who were former financial advisors, there's CPAs, right? So just so many backgrounds of knowledge that all coming together, right? Rather than just staying over there in everyone's lane, right? No, coming together and having those kind of masterminding conversations. I mean, to be perfectly honest, even just sitting there in them, I just learned stuff, you know, at the beginning.
True.
Now
True.
it's fun to kind of take part into them, now be able to help
Yeah.
give advice, right? So, but that's really
Yeah.
getting into those rooms and having those conversations, listening almost like through osmosis, and then maybe go and ask questions, you know, like go ask questions. Hey, what did you mean when you said this, right? And also speaking to the diversity, what really changed the game for me is because I see people who have no background in finance who are thriving now, right? Because of just having those conversations, being in the room, having the background to be able to understand, this is where I'm at. Hey, but at the same time, this is not where I'm going to stay.
That's great. I love that line. Yeah, and that's exactly why I wanted to start this podcast, because I truly believe that we all wear many hats, and investor hat should not be a scary one. It's meeting that fear with curiosity and just continuing to ask questions so that you can get more knowledgeable for yourself, because nobody's going to care about your money as much as you do.
Nailed
And
it.
so, yeah, just I like what you brought up too, of making sure you have a diverse view of everything. So, talking to CPAs, talking to real estate folks, talking to people who have sold businesses, that's brilliant. And if it's not someone that you know, just ask. Like, you'd be surprised who in your immediate friend group might know of someone in a particular industry. And then from there, that person might know someone else to connect you with. And then it just carries on from there.
You nailed it. Absolutely. And that's one thing, like when I always ask, like when I talk to kids, when I say kids, I would say more so young adults, like in
Sure.
college, athletes going into, I always say, like, if I could go and do one thing again, it would be to cement relationships with people. The
Mm,
people, right? Relations with people, really what make the world go. That again, I touching on like wanting to help young people, is like that is really the cornerstone of creating networks and people of like can continue on and throughout life. It doesn't have to be a transaction. Yeah, you're my coach, or yeah, you know, or you're a fan or something like that. Really, kind of getting outside of yourself and having conversations and cementing relationships can really be a big deal and lead to a lot of different things later in life, just by opening a lot of doors, just by being who you are and being friendly and having a conversation.
Such a good point. Relationships with finance or with anything in life are so important. I think if COVID taught us anything, it was that for sure. We all need community, but no, absolutely agree with that 100%. Has there been anything that has surprised you on this journey?
Really feel, for me, it was like I had to really disassemble my entire identity because it was just so wrapped up entirely into my success as a basketball player. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's a real thing. That's a
it
real
is a real
thing for
thing. I know
athletes.
a lot of athletes go through it, and so it's almost like you're participating in sport while your whole life is going around you,
Yeah.
and you're almost a spectator to your life outside of you while you're playing, if that makes sense, right? So, whereas most people, right, are spectators watching you play and perform, and so I would say what surprised me the most was like how involved I had to get into my life and really strip down, like, Natalie, you're more than a basketball player. You can study. You are smart. It's like,
Yes.
you can comprehend challenging things. And
Yep.
that's been really the most, and because as well, like, I think the financial industry in general does a terrible job of making it feel inaccessible, making it feel
Yeah.
like it's this very huge nebulous topic that you can't understand. And that is what I would say is probably the like other discovery I had was it's really not rocket science. If you understand
Yeah.
some of these core things and you just start to build that foundation of knowledge and you slowly get better at it. And that's exactly what I did with my journey. That people can do that too, to really feel more empowered with their own like their own finances, instead of remaining passively dependent on people while being a spectator almost to your finances, again, like I was in.
Yeah, and that reaffirms exactly what I just said a moment ago about, okay, let's put our different hats on, and it shouldn't be this nebulous thing like you were saying. It's totally attainable, and time after time again, you see so many athletes do this. You see so many anyone be able to comprehend this. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad that you brought that up again.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of breaking up with sport, what was the process like when you were deciding it was time to divorce basketball, and what pushed you over the edge?
That's a topic that I really spent a lot of time grappling with, and it's because I've basketball just kicked me right out. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is basically my knees. I my it was my third ACL, and it was my second one was the one I was at the absolute. I had my first one, and then I was like, okay, no problem. I got back. I was back playing. Second one, I was like, oh man, I was at the prime, really doing well, making the most money that I was making on a team. We just won a championship, right? And I remember doing the second one, and I was like, well, this isn't how my story ends, right? So I
Yeah.
decided to take a season off. So I really spent 18 months rehabbing. 18 months. And usually about 9 to 12 you should be pretty good. And I was strong as I could be, probably in the best shape of my life at that point, and had signed a 2-year contract to go back and play overseas. A month before I was supposed to go, I re-tore it. It was so much. It was interesting because it was as sad as it was for me. There was so much clarity in that moment that it was like, okay, I'm done. Like, okay, and yeah, I remember just thinking I couldn't imagine doing like one more leg lift. Like after it was pretty much 4 years,
Well, I bet. Yeah.
to get back and really just because you kind of have to start figuring out how to walk all over again and getting used to your body all over again. And I was like, what am I really trying to accomplish out of life right now? Is one more championship worth it? Is one more playing worth it, just to kind of have that? And that was really the challenge. It really threw me off for a few years, honestly, to try and figure out, okay,
Right.
I am done. Oh, that's right. What am I working? I go to the gym. What am I doing to work out now? Like, what am
Yeah,
I,
totally. I
right?
know. Yeah, like you said, you had to deconstruct yourself and be like, who am I?
Absolutely. Yes. And so this business was really helpful, and maddening at the same time, because I was very good at basketball. I had worked so hard at it, master, and continuing to work hard on it, for my heart and soul. Whereas this business, I was a shy kid. My brother was really good at talking to people. My sister, talk to a tree and make friends with it. Right. I was a pretty shy, introverted kid. Basketball was my outlook. I didn't have to talk a lot, until I
Yeah.
figured out you had to use your voice. But it was
Pass the ball.
that's right. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well that I can say. But I didn't really develop like my voice significantly, and talking to people, like that's what I would say, like, get to know people when you're young, get outside of your comfort zone. And so I saw them struggling. I was like, oh my goodness, if they're struggling, I'm gonna struggle in this, business for sure if it's about people. And so the thing that so I really struggled my first. I was just really referring people my first 2 years, and then my that third and fourth year, and I really struggled because I was like, man, still struggling at this. I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm not really excelling. I don't really know if I want to do this. I'm still trying to get back rehabbing just to kind of see, right. And that was so. It was an interesting time to try and figure out. But one thing I really knew for sure was that I knew a 9 to 5 wasn't for me,
Okay.
and I knew I wasn't a quitter. So it was
Yep.
kind of like, I'm going to figure this out until I figure it out. And the one thing that really surprised me the most was that because I was this champion athlete, you just have to go back to the basics. You have to go back to when somebody really helped me. He was a really big this person in the military and became an entrepreneur. He said, why people fail. I asked him, like, why do you think military fail in business. He was like, because they are stuck in the entitlement zone. He was like, I learned I had to go to back to the one, I'd be the one cleaning the bathrooms, go back to the bottom, go back to the basics, learning everything and building from there. And that's really what it is with anything to become great. You have to kind of start with those basics and just build from there. And that was something that I was like, no, I was stuck, like I made it to the top. I should be paid as well as the men, like,
Yeah.
why not, So I think that's really what stuck me in my way, was just that arrogance and ego a little bit. And
Yes.
in my own way, as everybody, as a lot of people can relate to, but specifically business owners.
I had an incredible speaker come and talk to us recently, and he said to have a black belt mentality, but also a white belt mentality with the black belt. So just white belt meaning have that beginner mindset and always humbling yourself to what that looks like. And then obviously having the black belt expertise sort of thing, which I think goes a long way.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Just the other day, someone had an analogy of black and white belt, and it was almost like you don't even get to have a black belt until that white belt becomes so black, because you put in all the reps, you put in the record.
Very
Like,
cool.
yeah, that's stuck with me for a really long time. That visual, it's really, really great.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, gotta grit and do the work.
Right? Absolutely.
During basketball, did you ever think what your life would look like when you were done playing?
I love that question, because the only thing I thought of was, well, and I knew was basketball. The only avenues I knew, though, were either keep playing or coaching. And I just remember some of my old teammates from Notre Dame, and a lot of them are successful now, but I just remember the grinding of the lifestyle and that being in coaches. I didn't know if I wanted to be in that lifestyle. I don't know if I like that. I don't love X's and O's like that. I just
Right.
played, right? And so I really found that I loved training kids. And I remember doing that all when I was overseas. I even, started a little business. It was like helper handle,
Awesome.
and I loved it. But I remember it being like 4 hours, and it was so particular. I had to be on the court with them. I was like 4 hours after like maybe 4 kids, right? And we were like, wow, I remember being just absolutely exhausted, and I was like, I don't know if this
Yeah,
is sustainable, right? I know people do it and do it, but it was just, for me, it didn't feel like that was something I wanted to pursue. So that was kind of my extent of thinking about it. And then it was really my brother, like I said, who kind of brought this business into our lives. And I kind of just remember just showing up and paying attention and seeing people whose lives I was like, I want that too. I like that time freedom. I like working remotely. I like being able to travel and have that kind of freedom of time. And so that appealed to me. So that was really the extent of kind of how I thought about it, mostly because I was able to live that lifestyle as a professional basketball player, to have low expenses and also have everything paid for, typically outside of like food and gas, and being able to get things done, and then I can go and do different things, right? And so that I got a taste of that, and I think I wanted to move more in that direction.
No, that's extremely helpful to know, especially because you said earlier you knew you didn't want a 9 to 5. So it's like, okay, well, what does that look like then? And now you've been working for Transamerica. So can you just describe the company and who is it for, who is it not for, and what has been a good case study?
For me, it's like, you're allowed to create the first of all, the company's been around for over 100 years, and backed by a $500 billion company from the Netherlands. It's just huge backing. And I liked that credibility wise. So I don't have to introduce myself. This is nationwide. People know what Fidelity is. People know, all the different companies that we work with. So the brokerage that I get to be a part of really just sets the tone. And we get to, like, we're different from the typical financial advisor. We're full service. We have all the licenses essentially, but what we really help people on is the asset protection side of things. Most advisors are helping people with stock market products, and we help people more so on that. When I say asset protection, like helping them with more indexed accounts, enabling them to partake the upside of the market but never lose their money. But most importantly as well, like taxes. A lot of people's aren't familiar with like the implications just of taxes, and if a lot of people, taxes are going to go up in the future, does it make sense to wait to pay taxes later when we all agree a lot of them are going to potentially go higher, right? What if you could grow your money tax-free, access it tax-free? What if you could access it before 60, right? So it's more so a lot of, I would say, like, financial firms are out to help the very, very wealthy, top 10%. And what's cool is they end up they have coaches helping them through the tax strategies, helping them through where to place their money. But who get left behind? 90% of Americans, right, get left behind financially. So we can help the wealthy Americans as well, but at the same time, we can also help kind of like that 80% that are still need access to the private knowledge that they have, right? Because really, who ends up paying the taxes, or who ends up, is it the informed or is it the uninformed, right? It's really the informed. And so if the wealthy have coaches helping them through, how do we help people? How do people have access to finances, the private knowledge that they're privy to, essentially, right? So that's kind of really what it comes down to, is helping people, and that's really what separates us. And I love that. So just give me a quick example, like, one of our people, he was a stock market guy, and he had so many things in the stock market and he loved it, but he was like, well, I can still get great rates of return without any loss, basically. So we helped roll over majority of his 401k into, he's 62, and he was looking for ways for people to still grow his money, but also, what if I could grow my money safely, have that peace of mind? That dilemma people face when they're going towards retirement is, I don't want to money, right? But at the same time, I can't just put it over here in a bank account or a CD and just let it try and ride the way, ride out.
You're barely beating inflation at that point.
Right? That's exactly right. So what if we could help them still get high rates of return? And we just had just 2 days ago, his annual return. He was super happy. He got a 28%. 28%. So it's just
I'll take that.
That's right. This myth that's been thrown out, you have to put your money in the stock market. One of our clients, his advisors told him that, look, you can't get hurt on a roller coaster if you don't get out. It's like, but where were you? Like when my dad wanted to retire in 2009, 2008, 40% of their life
out of luck.
That's right. And he had to work for 7 more years just to break even. So it's like, what if you could, it's not saying put all your eggs in one basket, but what if you could have some where it's growing tax advantage, have some where it's safe from the market, then have your play money to where it's in the market, and maybe not your entire portfolio in that unstable, unreliable, unpredictable vehicle of the variable market, right? And so, there's a lot of but then there's also, I talk about another, if I were a young person, again, where would you put your money? I would say, you know what you could do with it? You could put into an account that's growing tax advantage, but you can access it before 60. What if people wanted to access it for an emergency, which is very real, but also access it for an opportunity, down payment on a home, down payment on a car, but still getting that great growth, right? So that's where the difference is that we can do is, we don't work to like, hey, let's not replace your advisor at the same time, but hey, what if you could also either fill in some gaps or reallocate some of your funds to a meat of it, the majority of it's growing tax advantaged, or the meat or the majority of it isn't losing money, and being able to still take part in the upside of the stock market.
I said it once and I'll say it again, the wealthiest focus on taxes. How do I keep more money in my pocket? And so these are the types of products that they're using to attain that goal. And then also kind of what we started the conversation with, you were saying, okay, how can I save but also spend? So some people are like, what do you mean I can get stock market returns without the downside? It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. But having, again, these conversations, you notice and learn more about products that are out there. And of course, you do the due diligence to find if, I don't know, it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out what's smoke versus not. But
True.
Just having those conversations is how you get to know these different things that are out there.
That's exactly right, Bella. And you even mentioned too, the wealthy in their conversations about taxes. But I always think too, like Warren Buffett, one of the best investors of our time, he's got 2 rules of money. First rule, never lose your money. The second rule, never forget about rule number 1. The wealthiest people of our time aren't losing money. Why are most middle Americans just settling for that?
Right. So powerful.
Yeah.
And just wanting to end with how you think about your own portfolio. So what do you look for in investment? It's probably a lot of the things we already talked about, but I don't know if you have any more commentary there.
I think you want to make sure you're with people who want you to have empowerment with your finances. They don't want you to be, do they want to have you passively dependent on them? Are there a lot of fees involved when it comes to the advisory fees? Do they work for one company? Like, do they have to push those products? I think of like, what if are there accounts where I can accomplish multiple things? Is there a way that I can grow my money tax-free, but still get great rates of return? Can I find a way to get great rates of return, but not necessarily lose my money? Do I have to wait till 60 to access my money? Can I have access sooner? Making sure you kind of fully understand it. You don't necessarily have to fully understand like all the ins and outs of it, which, because I know some people just shut off when it comes to finances, but having a little bit of an interest, or maybe I could, read an article on something, watch a video or something on something. And what I also look for is, like, do I trust the people that I'm working with? Do I feel
that's such a big one.
Do I feel comfortable with them? That's really because when it comes to finances, you have to have people, there has to be trust, right?
Yes.
So I understand there's an element of taking risk and asking questions, people, but continuing to seek and ask questions and seek out help, because the schools are not going to teach us it, right? And so it's going to be elemental level, which would be fine, but especially when you're growing and getting into adult, like, making sure you have people in your life that you trust and surrounding yourself with that. So that's kind of some of the things I look for when it comes to like what I mentioned earlier, and also just in general now.
Right. The theme of the podcast, ask questions.
Yes, absolutely. It's 100%. A lot of people, I can't remember who it was by, my goodness, but it was basically asking who, not how. A lot of us are spending our times, we set a goal, we're trying to figure, it's very linear. Okay, how do I get from A to B, basically? But instead of asking, hey, who can I enroll in this to help me get to A to B, right? And because if you collaborate and have that knowledge together, you're going to get way further than you would be just like you trying to get it to where you want to go. Or if you need more time, hey, who can I hire to help me accomplish these tasks that I can delegate, right? So it can be in anything, an aspect of life. Like, if I don't understand any of this, who can I enroll to help me, rather than me trying to do all on my own?
It takes a village. I'm such a big proponent of the team mentality because, for example, relating it back to sports, if you're on a basketball court, I'm on a soccer field, I know I can't do it by myself. I can't get that ball in the net without my teammates, and I know each teammate has a strength. So find those strengths in each person, then surround yourself with, and like you said, power in numbers, and you'll get to that goal.
Yeah, it's a superpower, really asking for help, and it's a quote for a reason, isn't it? It's if you want to go far, go alone. No, if you want to go win somewhere, go alone or something. But if you want to go far, go together, right? So
yes,
something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. My last question is, if $1 million just popped out of the pool behind you right now, how would you allocate it?
Love that, popped out of the pool. Well, the first question I would be like is it before or after taxes?
Great question. Yep. That knocks off a third of it already.
Right. But what I would probably do is I would max fund an next universal life policy. And I would, when I say max fund it, put a lot of that money, use credit cards as well to be able to fund it. So that's, $1 million, million points right there.
Yeah.
And I would use that money to leverage to maybe get out of debt completely. I would use that strategy to borrow from it and reinvest in real estate and maybe buy other assets while I'm still getting that money still sitting in an account, earning that 6%, 6 to 12%, but while still gaining interest. And then I would, use that money to reinvest, exactly like I said, in real estate, other assets, precious metals, stocks, whatever it is from that. But that's kind of what I would start off with. So making sure I can have liquidity with that money still, but at the same time, making sure it's growing tax advantage, and I can still access it tax-free and still being able to do this.
Those are great points. And I know this life insurance policies, they sometimes get a bad reputation, but it really is an incredible concept to have money sitting in the bank account, my air quotes, bank account with the life policy, have it continue working for you, even though you've pulled money out and are now having that same money working somewhere else. So it's doing double time.
Really cool. Yeah. And if you use credit cards as well with it, smartly, obviously, because you have the money, you can pay it off right away and still have fabulous credit, you're really using that dollar 3 times.
True.
Right?
Very true.
Yeah. And that's really the best words of the wealthy I've learned is delegate and leverage. Right. And so even your money, like, are you leveraging it properly, or are you being leveraged by the banks? Are you being leveraged by the credit card companies? And yeah, so great question. They definitely do get a bad rep sometimes, but I think the more people typically that are giving them a bad rep are either people who don't understand it fully, or they don't actually help people with them. So they don't fully understand, aren't licensed to help people with them, or their companies aren't invested to want to service people with them, right? Where do they make more money? Probably in the stock market. Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So yeah,
Yeah.
you trust the person you're with, and making sure
Exactly.
it's something that you're comfortable with and understanding. And you're right, it isn't for everyone, but it can be a really beautiful kind of Swiss Army knife for a lot of different people.
And learning people's motivations, right? Like, okay, why is this person telling me this? Or just maybe questioning that aspect of it too. And just out of curiosity, what credit cards do you like these days?
I love great question. Really good ones for I would say a lot of people like Amex Gold. Really good one for like food, groceries, for traveling as well a little bit. Chase Sapphire is a really good one. Platinum like business ones through are really good through Amex, and as well as the Capital One Ventures are very good. But yeah, the credit cards game, it's so fun to be in it, but making sure you're doing it properly and with
Yes.
making sure you do understand it and being responsible with it, because I
Right.
wouldn't say it's for everyone, but you can also save money by using credit cards, right? And if you're
Like
already
get that
understanding
trip paid for.
that, right? Yes, so it's really fun.
Yeah, and at the end, I'll make sure to have you tell everyone how they can get in contact with you. But first, let's just end with a quick three fire round of questions. First
Okay,
one is, what's your favorite restaurant?
anything hibachi,
Oh, okay.
absolutely,
We're
yeah. Give me
going.
some cook in front of me, rice, meat, steak,
Yeah.
chicken, vegetables. Oh my god, so good. Sushi as well. Oh,
Don't forget the onion train.
oh, the onion tray. I'm telling you, yeah, absolutely. All of it. Put the egg in there. It's just
Yeah.
so good, so good.
That's awesome. What's a favorite book you've recently read?
Just finished Chopped Wood, Carry Water.
I've never
Very
heard
good.
of that.
How to fall in love with the process of becoming great. It's very easy
Cool.
stories, very simple chapters. You know what I mean? All of us what we need these days,
Mhm.
short attention spans, and it was great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And who's that by? Do you remember?
Jason Metcalf.
Okay.
Jason, I think that might be the right.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Last question. What is your favorite way to stay up to date on the news?
My favorite way is one, my mother.
Yeah.
She just is someone who's got her pulse on everything, right? And I'm very grateful for that. And I enjoy my conversations with her. And because I know she's very involved and does her reading and things like that. But I try and curate my social media that I'm already on to be able to filter in some of the news essentially.
Right. Right.
If it's something that's significant, maybe you go online and kind of go from there. But it's that's typically kind of what I would say.
I like that. Just incorporating it into stuff that you're already doing.
Non-biased, kind of nonpartisan as well, just trying to
Right.
get some facts out there because it can be crazy out there, the differences
Totally.
and the polarity, right? But if you
Yep.
can try to get
Yep.
some of the facts out there, I think that really helps just people knowing the facts. You can really navigate life a little better.
I agree. And then keeping in mind that algorithms out there can always be funneled from
Right. Yeah.
swaying from one way to the next. So you just never know. So you have to actively make sure that you're getting two sides of the story.
Yeah, you nailed it. And to your credit, the whole theme is just ask questions.
Yeah.
Is this reality, right? Am I living in
Yeah.
a is this fact, right? So yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, Natalie, thank you so much. How and why can people reach out to you?
Thanks, Bella. This has been amazing. People can honestly reach out to me through Instagram. My handle is if not me then who.
Love
THENDHO.
that.
If not me then who. It's really pretty simple up to, nowadays to get a contact with me. But I'd be happy to speak with people, whether it comes to finance or I know people at the same time need to make more money rather than want to make more money, right? So even just kind of getting involved of if you know people who are looking for anything like this, like how can you get involved, right?
Yes.
Asking those questions, if you have questions, just asking them can really make all the difference.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. I hope people feel more confident to put their investor hat on and ask the question.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, Bella. I really appreciate always having great conversations with you off the Zoom and on the Zoom,
Yeah.
honestly. So, yeah, look forward to more as well.
Whenever we're both in town.
Yeah, you nailed it.
All right. Until next time. Adios.
Right here, Bella. Bye.
If you are ever interested in a recap with the main points discussed throughout the podcast episode, check out the Q&A series because we dig deeper into the concepts discussed, and you can follow along on YouTube if that's preferred. If you find any value in the show and want to support it, it would be awesome if you texted someone right now about it. You can say you have a podcast recommendation that you think they should listen to and then ask them to get back to you with their thoughts. Anything helps, and I really rely on the amazing investors like you to spread the word. Thank you so much for listening, and please feel free to reach out at any time.